hadn't seen Tina in months, so when she texted about catching up over dinner, I offered to host. We'd been best friends since college, and though life had taken us in different directions, the bond remained. She brought her husband Ryan, and I could tell right away something felt off. He was warmer than I remembered. Too warm. Complimenting the way I looked, saying I hadn't aged a day. Touching my arm when he laughed. I tried to ignore it, chalking it up to wine and charm, but the energy was different. While Tina stepped out to take a call, Ryan lingered beside me in the kitchen. He handed me a spoon, his fingers brushing mine, lingering. It wasn't accidental. I pulled back instinctively, but he didn't flinch. He just smiled, cool and casual. I stirred the sauce and focused on breathing. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I wasn't. When Tina returned, everything returned to normal. On the surface. But Ryan stayed close, too close, the rest of the evening. And I couldn't help but feel his eyes on me when I wasn't looking. That night, I told myself not to read into things. But deep down, something had already shifted. Dinner moved along with polite laughter and shared stories, but I couldn't shake the tension. Ryan sat across from me, his eyes catching mine more often than necessary. Every time Tina said something sweet or innocent, I felt a knot in my stomach. Under the table, I suddenly felt a light pressure against my knee. I froze. It was his. I pulled away immediately, heart pounding, unsure if Tina noticed the jolt in my expression. She was pouring wine, completely unaware. I tried to keep my face composed, but my mind was racing. Then Ryan leaned forward slightly, looked at me while pretending to adjust his plate, and mouthed something I wasn't expecting. "You look amazing tonight." I stared at him, stunned. Before I could process, Tina started talking about their weekend plans, cheerfully describing a couple's retreat they had booked. The contrast between her enthusiasm and his behavior made it all feel surreal. I excused myself to clear some plates, needing a moment. In the kitchen, I gripped the counter and tried to breathe. This wasn't innocent. I knew it now. And the worst part? A small, shameful part of me didn't feel only disgust, it felt noticed. And that terrified me. As they were leaving, Tina hugged me tightly, thanking me for the lovely evening. Ryan followed behind her, said a casual goodbye, and walked out the door. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. But then a knock. I opened the door, and there he was holding his phone. "Forgot this," he said. I stepped aside, letting him in without a word. He moved slowly, not toward the table, but toward me. I backed up instinctively, but he didn't stop. "I meant what I said earlier," he murmured. "You've always had something." I froze. "Ryan, don't." I warned, voice low, but he kept closing the space between us. And then he reached out, brushing hair from my face, and leaned in. I stepped back sharply, heart racing. "Get out," I said, shaking. His eyes didn't flicker. "You felt it too," he said like it was a fact. I couldn't believe his confidence. "You're my best friend's husband," I snapped. "That means something." He smirked and turned to leave like it was nothing. I shut the door hard behind him, hands trembling. In that moment I knew one thing for certain. He crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes I replayed the look on Ryan's face, the arrogance, the assumption that I'd stay silent. I ignored Tina's text the next morning and the day after. My guilt was suffocating, not because I'd done anything wrong, but because I hadn't said anything. I kept wondering if she deserved to know, if silence made me complicit. When she finally called, I answered. We met at a cafe, and she smiled like nothing was broken. She talked about how distant Ryan had been lately, how she worried something was off. My stomach turned. Then she asked if I'd noticed anything strange. I looked her in the eyes, opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Instead, I lied. Said the dinner was great and that he seemed fine. She looked relieved. I hated myself for it. But I knew she wasn't ready. Maybe I wasn't either. That night, I blocked Ryan's number. I didn't know him anything and I couldn't keep pretending. I distanced myself from Tina too. Not because I stopped caring, but because the weight of the truth was too heavy to carry between us. Some betrayals don't need witnesses to ruin everything.